Welcome everybody to the Book of X, and today we are going to discuss my thoughts and impressions on the new game from a brand new studio called Sandfall Interactive called Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Having spent over 60 hours in the game, experiencing majority of the side content and completing the main story, I think I can confidently say that Expedition 33 is one of the greatest games I have experienced, at least this gen, if not of all time. And now I come from a background of a person who's not massively been into turn-based RPGs over the years, only having in recent years sort of got into the Final Fantasy franchise or the Dragon Quest franchise and so on. It wasn't an area I sort of touched on, but this all changed recently, and now having completed Expedition 33, I'm afraid that this game may have ruined all the others for me, because the sheer level of craft on display in this game is impeccable. So if we start with what this game is about, this game focuses on the narrative is there's an entity known as the Paintress who appears in this world that is based on a sort of a turn of the century 1900 Paris, that the Paintress counts down on a number, each number then reflecting that anyone over the age of that number will die once the time comes. So the expedition sort of sets out year on year to try and prevent this from happening and defeat the Paintress, and so far has been unsuccessful, which lands us on Expedition 33, the latest venture out to achieve their said goal. Now, to say that the story has plenty of surprises in store for you would be an understatement. The narrative of this game was gripping, and there was twists and complex sort of changes at every turn, to a point whereby when you think the game has ended, it has not. It's only just the end of a certain act. There are decisions made with characters that justify your expectations within how a video game narrative should work when focusing on their protagonists, and this game keeps you gripped right until the very end. Many people may have their opinion on some of the decisions made in this, but for me personally, I thought the narrative of this game was fantastic. Now, the narrative is there to sort of complement and highlight just the high quality sort of production value of this game. The voice acting on display here and the acting is brilliant, accompanied by a stunning musical score. So this feels like even though they're a AA studio, this feels like a high production AAA title with a sort of a Hollywood story to match. But at the same time, when I say Hollywood, this is very much a unique, I've not seen a game present forward a story quite like this before. So it's very unique, which probably is what engages you further. And the characters are all very interesting. They all have their motives, their intentions, and each one is fleshed out fully. That extends then into the combat. Every character is unique, and as the game goes on, you will start to experiment more and more with various builds of characters to understand which combinations of characters work, which powers work, and you will get to a point later on in the game where you can deal out some lethal level of damage once you get certain combinations right. For the earlier parts of the game, it wasn't so apparent, but as you get towards the latter part of the game, understanding those characters to the core, upgrading them in the right way becomes not even sort of a option thing. It becomes essential to get success in defeating many of the end game bosses, many of which can take you out in a single hit if not dealt with properly. So when it comes to the sort of upgrade system in this game, you will go through upgrading your various characters on their ability points, sort of strength, health, stamina, and so on. But then you also have the upgrades on the weapons. You also have upgrades on abilities to learn how to do new attacks that you use your magic points for. On top of this, then you can have various what's known as pictos attached, which each of them gives you, it's essentially perks and abilities to allow you to, attack twice, do double damage, respawn automatically if you die, and so on. But then as you learn those after using them in, I believe, 4 fights, you can then convert those using a currency called Lumina in the game that allows characters to learn as many of those pictos as they want, but at the cost of Lumina points, and then more powerful pictos will cost more Lumina. For example, instant revive will cost you 40 points, whereas something like doing a double hit on base attack will only cost you 5 points. So all of these work together in you would need to find the right balance and right combo for each character, so that it's not, instead of going in sort of brute strength, you might need certain characters with faster abilities so that they have more and more turns. It's no good having a very strong character if their stamina's down, because it means you can do one massive hit, but then you might be waiting 6-7 turns to go again. In that time frame, you could end up getting killed, because the parry system in this game is very aggressive. On that topic of the parry system in this game, that's what makes this combat so unique compared to other turn-based games. Every time an attack comes from the enemy, you have the ability to counter it. There's a lot of crossing over with a game such as Lost Odyssey here. I almost feel like Lost Odyssey was ahead of its time. But when the enemies attack, you will have to defend and parry so you can avoid sort of high damage. And if you can parry every single move, you will automatically do a counter. In the same way as once you attack the enemy, you have the ability to supercharge your attacks by hitting sort of QTE buttons to get sort of greater results out of those attacks. So it constantly keeps the entire thing fresh. This is all complemented then by an absolutely beautiful AI style, UI style in the game, so that visually the combat is fantastic, the menus are fantastic, the way the presentation as a whole is impeccable. In addition to all of this, then there's a massive amount of variety in the game as far as enemies go. There's dozens upon dozens upon dozens of enemy types that you'll fight throughout the game, every single one of them requiring you to learn new sort of ways to approach them. No two enemies alike, which sort of adds just to the enjoyment of this game. It doesn't become a case of once you've played the first couple of hours you've seen everything. No, there's no monotonous activity in this game. You keep going and the game continues to deliver you brand new content on and on and on. So the main storyline, probably if you were to gun through it, which would be pretty difficult to do because it becomes quite hard later on in the game, that'd probably take you about 30 hours, but all in all there's probably a good solid 80 hours worth of content here. As I stated, I've played about 60 hours of it. I've got a couple of late stage bosses left that I'm just not able to defeat at the moment because just too difficult, such as a character called Simon. I'll say no more. But yes, when it comes down to this game, as I stated, it's not my forte as a genre, but from what I've played of this is one of the greatest gaming experiences I've ever played. Whether it be the characters and the story being delivered, the way you traverse the map with this overworld style view, getting from place to place, the combat is brilliant, and all of it gels together to be this, what I would define as a perfect package. When we first seen this game shown at Xbox E3 last year, it already looked promising, but the fact they were able to follow up on this and deliver what I currently understand to be the highest rated game of the year, kudos to the studio. I can't wait to see what comes around from the future. But for my personal scoring here, this is going to be my first 10 out of 10. This game was a straight up masterpiece. So if you've not checked it out already, be sure to check out this game. It might not be the genre you're into, but take it from myself as a person who's not a massive turn-based RPG guy, this is a must play. And on that note, guys, I'm going to call the video there. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll speak soon.